And we're getting ready. Three, two, one, and ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the hippest trip on YouTube. That's right, you cool cats. It is time for a Tearing It Up Tuesday where we're going to explore all kinds of topics of whatever I feel like. People are always like, what is your show about Tuesday? And I'm like, well, whatever I feel like talking about that week is what it's about. Because my Thursday show is usually all about Mandela Effect. And I sometimes get a little tired of talking about it over and over. So it's nice to take a break and be able to do a Tuesday show about anything I want. Sometimes the topics range from liberty, personal stuff, to gardening, to psychics tonight, because I dig psychics. A lot of you guys know that. And so I enjoy talking. And one of my favorite psychics and new friends is Dana Jensen. We're going to get to her in a little bit. But I do want to do a little housekeeping. For you guys that don't know, the Mandela Effect show is coming up Thursday. So Thursday will be, let's see, it's going to be a women's panel. I've had a big complaint that I only have men on. The last panel was like 5 men and 1 woman, and it's not that I don't try. I invite the ladies, but they just don't come. They're too busy. Something's going on. So I put the call out, and it should be a very interesting show. We're going to also discuss a little bit with our friend Gabby. Gabby's going to come on and talk a little bit about crystals with us. So that'll be interesting. If you kind of dig this topic, you'd probably dig the beginning of next Thursday's show. That should be groovy as well. All right, without further ado, let's talk to my guest, Dana. Dana is nice enough to help me out. She has been a psychic pretty much her whole life, and she does it full time, so she's not someone that's just kind of putting her toe in the water. She's quite good at what she does, and we are going to talk a little bit about her past, and then we're going to also then learn about how to develop your own psychic powers, because I feel, and I'm going to ask her, I think everybody's psychic. It's just a matter of how to tap into it and develop it. So we're going to drop that right now. So Dana, say hi and tell everybody about yourself.
Hello, everybody. I'm Dana, and I've been able to do psychic readings for many, many years now, and it's a great job. It's probably the best thing that I've ever done. It's the best job I've ever done, and it's the longest job I've ever done. so I think, and you're right, everybody does have a pineal gland. Everybody does have psychic powers, and we can tap into them. Sometimes it's a little bit harder to show people how to do it because, you know, you find your own way. You find what's comfortable, and you find what it is that works for you. Sometimes you have to try a bunch of different things just to kind of figure it out for yourself. But it takes a little while to discern what it is and how visions come, because a lot of times, you know, they come in little puzzle pieces, so you don't always understand the whole vision because you're not seeing the whole vision. So you have to learn how to tap into that as well and allow synchronicity in the universe to show you all your psychic wares. So, but we all do have this ability, yeah, for sure.
Well, very cool. And why don't you give us a little bit about your past? How does someone become a psychic? How does that happen? Because everybody kind of feels like, well, you know, I know who it's going to be before someone calls, or I predicted something was going to happen and then it happened. And you know, everybody's kind of had a little deja vu, little psychic moment, I think, in their life at one point or another. But how do you go from that to, okay, I'm going to do this for a living? Like, tell me how you started. How did it get going?
Well, you know, from a young age, I would see things and feel things and hear things that nobody else would see. And thank God I had a very understanding mother, because she knew I was authentic in what the child was doing, but she couldn't quite understand it. And then as years progressed, I would start seeing things. I would start seeing my friends and you know, the houses that they were going to buy or the people that they were going to marry. I remember one time I was driving down the road with, it was a girls' weekend. And we're driving down the highway, we're having a good time. And I looked back at my girlfriend and I said, oh, you're going to meet a man that has 2 different colored eyes. And she goes, oh, really? And I said, yep, he's going to have 2 different colored eyes, just like my pony when I was a little kid. And sure enough, that's exactly who she's married to right at this point in time. And that's what happened. He has a blue eye and a brown eye. So, you know, things like that would come about just in my everyday. But I mean, I worked in the bank, and I was a waitress for years, and I worked in investment companies, and, you know, people that I worked with, I would see them having babies, and I would tell them, we'd be sitting in the break room, and I'd be like, oh, I can see you having another baby. And, you know, one lady would say to me, she's going, my kids are teenagers. I can't have another baby now. Sure enough, they had another baby 11 years later. So, you know, it just, things like that were happening in my world, and I knew I could see things that were happening in the future. And then, you know, I started just doing some self-revelation and self-knowing and trying to get, wasn't happy working in investments and the banking. I couldn't stand it. It was awful. And so I needed to do something. And people would tell me, oh, you should do psychic readings, because I would give advice or I would give my visions, and they'd be saying, oh, you need to do this for a living. And I'd be like, no, you can't do this for a living. What are you talking about? And finally one morning I just woke up, and you know, sure enough, I went to a course in Toronto for a weekend that I resented the whole time, but it ended up changing my life. So, you know, it's funny how we resent the things that are good for us. But it ended up changing. The woman who sent me on the course was my boss at the time, so I promptly quit my job after he paid for the course and said, thank you very much, which gives me. Yeah, I just ended up saying, you know what, I'm going to do psychic readings for a living, and that's ended up, and it was funny, the process that happened with that was quite amazing, because when you actually choose to do something that you're passionate about, and you know, there was a lot of things that came with it. They say it's the blessing and the curse that comes with it, and that's absolutely true, because I know one night I was driving home, and if you wouldn't mind me telling this story, because it was kind of the beginning of how it all started for me. And so I had taken this course for about a year in Toronto. So I'm driving down the highway, and I had one of those amazing nights where you were just stoked and so happy, and you think, oh, I got it all together. And I'm driving down the 401, which is the major highway in Ontario, and you know, music's blaring, I'm dancing, I'm singing, and then all of a sudden I come upon this whole entire energy took over my whole car, took over my whole being, and I had seriously went from here to here, because I had felt like I had just lost my children. It just went from me being so happy and stoked to me being, oh my God, I've just lost all my kids. And I started hyperventilating, and I started stressing out, and I'm thinking, and my rational brain is going, Dana, you know, from one second to the other, you didn't lose your kids. And I ended up pulling my car over to the side of the road, and I was crying, and I was hyperventilating, and I didn't know what was going on. And all of a sudden I look across the highway, and there's no cars coming down the other side. And I thought, oh, interesting. And as I'm trying to compose myself and get myself back together, I pull out and I start driving, and I see an ambulance coming the other way. And then I'm driving up to it, and I can see the whole, you know, traffic jam, and there's a major car accident. And as I'm driving by it, the whole feeling left me. It just, everything just went away, and I was back to normal. And as I got home, I listened to the news report, and a mother had lost both her kids in that accident. And that's what I ended up, and I still get all choked up, because it still affects me to this day. And this was, you know, years and years ago. But it was what I was coming upon being a reader. It was something that I had to realize, that I was going to be empathically picking up the energies of these people who were going to be all around me. And I can do it anywhere. Driving down the highway, I can do it. I can pick it up, and it comes on a wave to me. So I felt this mother's pain. And it still affects me. I still feel all choked up, and you can probably hear it now, but you put yourself right back in it, and you realize that this was the journey of my life. This is what it was going to be. So it was quite an amazing time for sure. And then I just started doing readings for a living, and I drove school bus for a long time because it wasn't quite paying the bills. So I went out and drove school bus in the morning and the afternoon, did readings in the afternoon, and I did that for about 3.5 years. And then I got to the point where I could just do it full time, and I've been doing it ever since.
Well, I'm curious because there's some people here that are listening that really, I don't know if they believe in psychics, or they're just curious and stop by, or they don't know anything, or they want to get started. You know, everybody's different places. How would you describe that? What kind of psychic are you, where you start picking up feelings of other people as you walk by, or you start picking up their stuff? What is that called? Is that channeling, or what is that? Clairvoyance?
I do channel. I think it's all of it combined, to be honest with you. I think it's everything combined into one. And when you really tap into all of your senses, it's the clairaudience, the clairvoyance, you know, the clairsentience, everything that kind of comes with the territory, it ends up being all of you. So you're hearing it, you're feeling it, you're seeing it, you're doing all of the mechanisms that come with discerning what's going on around you. And it really is, you know, I always say it's picking up the matrix bubbles. And everybody has these sort of octopus arms that are choices, and you can tap into the sequences of events that they are sort of, you know, creating in their subconscious. They're creating it in their consciousness as well. But mainly it's about understanding how you're, and this is hard to explain, but you're discerning what's coming up in the visions and the feelings that you're getting in an empathic way, in a compassionate way. You are trying to sort of see it all play out. And I know remote viewing is part of what I do as well, where I can just kind of step into people's households, or I can step into people's work environment. I can kind of see people around them. But we're getting impressions of this all the time. Everybody is, you know, we're naturally telepathic. We're standing there in a grocery store lineup and we're picking up the thoughts of people. We just don't look to them and say, oh, I know what you were just thinking there. We have no way of confirming it because we don't talk about it. But we're sending out all of this data all the time, and we're picking it up all the time. It's just when you realize you're picking it up, that's when it becomes really, really cool. So that's what it's about. It's about picking up the data in the air.
Yeah, I think this is something really interesting because some people believe we live in a simulation or a matrix. And is the psychic a way? I mean, people kind of use this nebulous term, but maybe you're tapping into that matrix with your mind or your ability. You're able to kind of hack the system a little bit and look behind the doors.
We all are.
And
we're all able to do that.
I think it is a neat thing that we are going to be talking about. And before we really dive into this, if you are just joining us, I know my hair's like gotten completely crazy, Dana. Look at this. Like,
well, believe me, I know.
So it got a little nuts as far as that goes. You see, I think it gives you psychic powers having long hair. All the shaman all have long hair. It conducts that psychic energy in. It's like little antennas.
I think that's why some people shave it, is so they actually don't get psychically in tuned.
Well, anyway, so what happened was the thing is, with this conversation, I enjoy psychics, and you know, with the Mandela Effect, it's opened my eyes to everything. I'm like, I'm going to talk about everything, and we're going to discuss it. And you guys are big boys and girls and can make your own decisions. But I have talked to Dana on behind the scenes, and I do feel that she is the real deal. I invited her on here tonight to talk about how to tap into our own psychic energy and our own abilities and our own power. We're going to get to that, but please understand that this isn't going to be like a group reading. So if you're watching this in chat, don't be like, hey, can you ask her about my dead mom, or can you ask her about my dead brother? She has a real like website if you want to talk to her about that stuff. But I have a feeling it's going to turn this corner where everybody's going to want her to give her a free reading. So Let's just keep that in mind. Dana, I would assume, and I'm taking a big leap of faith here, but I would assume that most people start discovering their psychic when they're kids. Is that true, or do you see people trying to discover it later on in life?
I think actually it goes in phases, to be honest with you. I think it goes in phases because, you know, when I was a kid, I was extra in tune. And then you go through periods where you're more stuck in the third dimension reality and you sort of have to do your life. And so you're not as in tune. And then all of a sudden it starts coming back. A lot of times people who have a death in their family, a close death, they really want to understand how to connect to the people who come in their dreams. And just to kind of put it out there, of somebody coming through from the other side, in my opinion, it is always a visit. It's always a visit, and you are able to connect to them. You're able to have conversations with them. They're not going to feel exactly the same way, but that's okay. You'll still know their essence. But you know, just I've noticed over the years that people will pass on and then come through other people's dreams, and people tend to dismiss it and just say, oh, it's my mind, and you know, it's just my head, that's wishful thinking. And really truly I believe that it's spirit coming through to have that conversation with you, mainly because you can't always talk to people on the other side when you're in your everyday life. It's too challenging and you're not peaceful enough. But when you're sleeping, you're able to tap in a little bit better. And I digress because I forgot the question. Sorry.
It was mainly about, does it start in childhood? Like, if I want to develop psychic powers, I would assume that most people find them first as kids and then they turn them off, or they get capped, or somebody caps them, or is it one of these cases that I'm just making an assumption and some people don't get them until they're adults, or something happens, or a trauma, or, you know, I've heard so many different stories. I don't know. How do people start developing these things? What should you start your kids at it, or?
I do think you can introduce your kids to it for sure, and I think it's a really good idea. It all depends on your pineal gland, really. I mean, we all have a pineal gland, so how much hormone did I release when I was a baby, or maybe I have my natural abilities because more of the hormone was released at birth. I think that has a lot to do with it, but I also believe that you can activate your pineal gland. I believe that you can sort of turn it on, and making sure you're drinking pure water and so on and so forth. But I think you can exercise it like any other gland. I think you can purify it so it's activated better. And maybe what happens when there's a trauma, there's more of the pineal gland hormone released, and maybe that's why it kind of turns it on. That's mainly what I feel it is. So I think it can happen at any time. I think we're more open to it as a child just because we're not so tainted, unless our parents kind of suppress it or what have you. But if we're free to experience it, or free to just kind of explore it, I think that, you know, you can really exercise it. So the answer to your question is, I think it happens at any time, and I think it happens a lot at the moment of death as well. So you'll see people who are on a deathbed who are seeing past family members and stuff like that. There's lots and lots of cases like that too.
Yeah, I know whenever I've had some sort of I'm not psychic, but I do get visions here and there. I wouldn't describe myself as like, hey, like I'm the real deal or something, but I have been pretty good about getting visions in my future, and it's usually after some sort of trauma in my life. It seems to turn on. It seems to turn on when I'm at my lower points, not my upper points, which is weird. Like I don't know why that is, but that's just the way it's been. Like if I'm having a really bad year, all of a sudden I start getting a lot more psychic visions. And then when things are going good, I can't tap into it. I can't understand why it's closed off to me. So I don't know what that's about. But
I think maybe because you just need to experience what's coming next instead of getting more visions. You sort of have to do what you've already had visions about. So maybe that's where
Yeah,
turns
maybe
it
they're
down a
like
little bit.
encouragement or something. I guess when you need it.
Yeah, for sure. And you know, when it comes to me, I actually don't get a whole lot of visions for my own life. And ironically, I need to go to psychics to to have a reading here and there. So, which is kind of funny. Every once in a while, I'll get these spontaneous things that come for my future, but they're very cryptic, and they're, and I think I judge them too much or something, or you know, so I try not. I think they do me a favor and don't show me what's coming for the future for me.
Well, it's funny because with the Mandela Effect community that we've been setting up, it seems the last month there's just been more and more healers and psychics coming in, and we got a really cool community now, man. You can, you know, you can't throw a stone without hitting somebody that's has some sort of ability, and it's really neat. I don't know if the Mandela Effect community, maybe that group of people is more open to experiencing the Mandela Effect or something like that. What are your thoughts on ME?
Oh, well, I think psychics are truth seekers. I think psychics really want to understand their universe, and they want to understand what's going on. And you know, when you can walk around and you can see your sun not looking the way it used to. I could have swore one night I saw the moon upside down. I'm standing out in my parking lot and I'm looking at it and I'm like, that moon is upside down. It's like 3 o'clock in the morning. I can't, you know, nobody there to verify it with me. But the next night it was right side up. And I'm thinking, what's going on? And all of these things were happening. And even though I didn't have the answers, I knew my curiosity as a reader, as a mystic, as a seer. Sometimes I can kind of classify myself as an oracle sometimes as well, which is, you know, a little bit of a different story. But those are the things where you're looking into your reality isn't right anymore. It doesn't look the same as it was. Your whole life and existence, and the people that you know around me, people I've known for years, they are not the same people to me. They are not who I know, and I can, you know, I can testify that they just don't feel the same to me. So when I'm curious about this, especially as a truth finder and a truth seeker and somebody who speaks to spirit, I want to know what this is. Why is this changing so much? I can physically see my sun is not the same as it used to be. I can see that my sky is not the same as it used to be. I can just see it. I don't need anybody to tell me or science to show me. I can just see it with my naked eyes, and I know it's not the same. So when you're there and then people are coming in for readings and they're like, it just doesn't feel right, things just don't feel right, and you know what they're going through. Now how do you have this conversation with them? Because they're there to find out, you know, what their next partner is going to be, or what their you know, next house is going to look like, for, but they know the reality is not what it used to be, and they are not adjusting to it. They don't understand it, and they just try to grab for the things that make them feel normal. And you know, you want to tell them, you know, it's the Mandela effect, right? And they'll look at you, even though I'm fringe and even though I'm psychic, they still look at you with the raised eyebrows going, what are you talking about? So you have to be delicate in how you're having this conversation. But I think when it comes to mystics and readers, I think they just want to understand what it is, because their perceptions of the world are different than most, and it's important to them. And you know, I know lots of readers, and most readers that I meet, just, you know, curiosity and sort of out there, most readers or intuitives or what have you have some sort of autoimmune disease, and it's bad, and they've had it for a long time. And if you actually look at other readers, I've never met one that doesn't have one. So there's something interesting going on with the pineal gland and the autoimmune disease.
That's really interesting you say that, because now you say that, everyone I've ever met of them has some sort of, they always ask me about you know, chronic health issues. I worked in a functional medicine clinic for a long time, and all we did was deal with chronic health issues. You know, that was like the main thing people came in for: diabetes and lupus and the problems like that. And and it's funny because you're right. I never put that together. Every psychic woman I talk to, and they're mostly women. I only know like one or two psychic guys. I don't know why it's always women.
I think because women are more right brain than left brain. So men are more born left brain, and that's just really what it is. The right brain is where where the psychic perceptions are coming from most of the time. Anytime I start activating, my whole right side goes numb, kind of tingly. So that's when I know I'm ready to go.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's interesting though, isn't it? And I wanted to put it out there because I know your science, and I know you have worked in the health field, and I found it very interesting.
I never correlated the two of them. Now I'm just sitting here piddling around in my head. What could it be? Because, a lot of people always blame it on the pineal gland. That it's calcified, and that's where this is all coming from. And that if you can uncalcify it, and the number one calcification thing's fluoride out there, fluoride toothpaste and fluoride in the water and all that stuff. So I've heard all that, and I do believe that there's some stuff to that.
I think there is too. I think it's something that is definitely going on out there, and I've been noticing it for a long time. Lots of them smoke too. And that's an interesting thing too. A lot of readers smoke. Not everyone, but it's funny because it's such a passé habit and almost old fashioned, but a lot of them smoke.
Many are also overweight and not healthy. Like they take on everybody's junk or something. They don't take care of themselves at all. It seems like physically they're always sick, the ones I met. And I'm just wondering, what is that about? Are we not grounding well? Are we taking on other people's health problems and everybody, or is it something that happens when you get down or sick that some reason this ability opens up? I don't know. It's very weird.
Well, I think it's a bit of a combination, because I don't think that we take care of ourselves, especially when we're service workers or we're light workers and we're working for other people. A lot of times we do put ourselves on the back, and I think this is, I don't know, something bred into being a light worker or an energy worker. It's very challenging to find a balance for yourself as well. So I don't have the answers for that. I think it's the fact that, like, some days I can sleep for 18, 19 hours, and I have no other choice but to do that. And that way, but I think that's the way maybe I take care of myself. If I've had sometimes I can, run into 30 people in a week doing readings for, and it's crazy the energy that I come home with. So a lot of times I just need to shut down, but I think that's what it is. I think.
Yeah, we had a woman on here, Sharon, that is a friend of mine, that talks about what she call it, spiritual hygiene. That
yes.
I thought it was such a great term. I was like, I never heard of spiritual hygiene, but and a lot of the ME people I talk to in the chat rooms and stuff, they're all empaths, or they have some sort of basic, at least they're either full-blown psychics or they have some sort of basic psychic ability they're coming into. Can you give us an idea if you're starting out? Like I can see visions once in a blue moon. I kind of know when something's going to happen a little bit, but that's about as far as it goes for me.
Yeah.
How would I expand that, and how would it get better, or for people that want to really ramp it up?
Well, there's quite a lot you can do, actually. So I think some of the things, a guessing game is always fun. Yeah. In order to keep myself sharp, have you ever heard of ESP cards, where they have the little circle?
Yeah, like in Ghostbusters. Yeah.
Yeah, Zener cards. They're known as Zener cards as well. That's a good thing to kind of sit down and be able to practice that. That gets a little boring after a while, but that's a good start. Meditation. If you're not meditating, you're not connecting. That is just simply the way it is. If you cannot calm yourselves down and activate your chakras, you are not connecting to the ether world. And so you sort of have to be vibrating in that. Most people, I hear everybody, they get frustrated because I tell them, oh, you need to meditate. They get frustrated hearing that all the time, but then they don't meditate. And, you know, oh, I have brain chatter, I can't do it. But if you're really wanting to tap in, you have no choice but to start with the meditations. And there's lots of guided ones out there that you can do. Walking out in the bush is good. You know, what else can we do? We can do guessing games with our friends. Sometimes if you have a friend who we can send telepathic thoughts back and forth. So you have a friend that you're connected to saying, okay, I'm going to send you a time where you should call me, and see if you actually get the telepathic thought. And so then your friend calls you when all of a sudden, you know, you get that inspiration to give a call. So you can practice that. There's always hit and misses with that, but it's really fun to do. I've sent cosmic kisses to people, you know, and said, well, tell me what time you've received this kiss, or that you know that that they've received it. And they were very, very close. They weren't exactly right on, but they were in 1 week, they had it within like a half an hour. So that was pretty able to kind of send all of these things back and forth. There's lots of things that you can do.
Yeah, I think some of it develops naturally. Like Loving Life says she's telepathic with her kids. I know I was, you know, telepathic with my partner. You know, like I knew when she was going to call, or I knew I could like think about it and get them to call, that sort of thing. I do believe that some of it just develops naturally, but I think, like you were saying, the left brain takes over and just says, it's coincidence. You know, you're not really doing that. And it talks yourself out of allowing it to happen. You have to kind of shut that brain up.
Well, that's exactly what you do have to do. Yes, shut the brain up, because the brain interferes with the visions coming in.
So is there a strategy that you use to shut up the monkey mind, the left brain or the logical side? Is there a way to distract it so the right brain can take over and do stuff?
Oh, well, a lot of times you can listen to binaural beats. That's always a good way to be able to tap in. So think about it in this way. I can actually feel my right brain being activated. It's like an electrical circuit that goes through the brain. The left brain's sort of sedentary, and it's either, you know, some people were able to study listening to music when they were kids. I had to listen to music when I was studying when I was a kid, because I needed to keep the left brain busy. So that's where, you know, we can actually feel the whole sort of mechanism of it turning on, and you can recognize the feeling. I think that's the best way to do it, is recognize the feeling when your intuitive senses are turned on. That's the best way to go.
Just to start noticing, and then like recognizing it, encouraging it to come.
Turning it on.
Yeah, we had some tricks when I was doing a lot of I at the same place at the functional medicine clinic. He was also a chiropractic neurologist who I worked with, and they had all kinds of interesting tricks to get the right brain to activate, while the left brain was staying busy with something. Like, you know, a good example is the right brain it's good at imagining shapes and things like that. So I'll give you guys this little trick out there. You could get some money. Say I've got this silver dollar. Now, if I could get a bunch of different change that was about the same size, or pennies and quarters and stuff like that, put them under a table in a bag and start pulling them out and feeling them and guessing what they are. Don't look at them. It's all got to be like interpreting shapes without looking at it, or closing your mind and building shapes, or doing a maze. You could draw a maze, something like that. Those are all right brain activities, and they really fire it up.
They do.
One of the interesting things that I saw, there's a little side note, but this is why I'm thinking about it. I'm being told I should say this. There's my psychic right there. I'm listening. It's telling me to say this. When you have two areas of brains, right? And for you guys, we keep throwing around left brain and right brain. I'll simplify it. Left brain's kind of like science, math, logic. Right brain's like art and spiritual side. Okay. If you have a child who has ADHD, there's something really interesting that happens. They actually spike their left brain so hard that their right brain eventually has to spike in and cut it out so it doesn't damage itself. In other words, ADHD kids get in a loop where they start building up, and these parents know this. They'll start seeing the activities, and they're very heavy left brain activities, which is surprising, right? They get really into, like a video game or something where they're doing something visually, and they get really focused on it, and they start building and building and building. And what happens is the right brain actually has to cut in and basically short circuit the left brain so it doesn't damage itself. They get in such a high anxiety left side that the right brain will come in and cut it off. And the right brain, of course, is emotion. So all of a sudden, these kids doing something, and they just blow up for no reason. And you're like, whoa, where did that go? ADHD kid just going nuts. And it's because this right brain kicks on so hard and so fast that it is just an emotional overwhelm. And then it brings everything back down together. So if the left brain spikes, the right has to go rescue it and bring it back down. And what you can do is you can actually distract your child with right brain activities so they do not blow up emotionally. And you can do stuff like I'm talking about, where you get them, sit down and make them do a maze, sit down and have them count pennies, something like that. And you'll see their anxiety state just drop. If you can get their right brain activated before their left brain just goes in that cycle, it's amazing. Just a few small techniques for right brain stuff. You can go Google like how to activate right brain, and they'll give you some things to do. And if you do that while you see your child building up, you will save that anxiety blow up and all the emotional junk that goes with it. So there you go. There's my little 2 cents free.
That's good information. That's really good information, actually. Yeah.
So I know we're talking about psychics, but I'm being told to say this. So there you go.
I think it's the same thing, though. I think when it comes to your spiritual or your pragmatic side, I think it's third dimensional left brain, and then you've got the spiritual and creative side that you have to open up as well. And I think psychics or light workers are very much right brain, and a lot of times we can't take care of practicality. We can't take care of reality. I find that I have a very, very hard time being grounded in reality. In fact, I don't really like it very much. So I'd rather be off in the clouds in my psychic creative nature, and I think other readers have the same problem as well. Again, that's going back to taking care of yourself.
Yeah, you'll see monks and stuff like that, and doing mandalas, or drawing patterns, and they'll distract themselves and to get into the deep meditation, or saying, a certain chant, something like that, because they're getting their left brain busy with something. Give it a task. And one of the simplest tasks you can do to keep your left brain busy is make it concentrate on breathing. Breathe in for 4 seconds. Breathe out for 4 seconds. Breathe in for 4 seconds. Breathe out. Make them count and do stuff like back and forth. That little activity will completely lock up the left brain and let your right brain come out. And you should start feeling, like you're saying, if you're trying to tap into your psychic stuff, just controlling, count in your head, just keep counting, and then just listen. And it should help a lot. Also works, like I said, with the ADHD kids. Get them to count backwards and forwards and that sort of stuff. It's amazing. It's kind of the same thing.
It's amazing. Very good. Yes. Very
Sorry,
good.
I had to throw my 2 cents in there of stuff I've actually seen work in a clinic. People used to pay a lot of money for that that device, but it really does work. If you can see when your kid's going to blow up.
Well, then maybe, did you write a book about 10 years ago by any chance that you didn't finish?
Oh, I've always written. Yeah, I've got a couple books hanging out.
I want you to go look at one that's in a wooden drawer that's very, very deep it's like on the bottom of a wooden sort of desk drawer or long, skinny, square drawers, and go look in there and see what you have in there, and look back at that and see if there isn't something that you need to write there.
It's like, are you talking like it's in a wood box?
It looks like a wood dresser or something like that, or it looks like it has a handle on the front of it.
Wow, that's really good. I have an old, I keep these, because the last time I've always typed everything, but you're talking probably 20 years ago. I used
This is handwritten.
Yeah, this is handwritten, and I store it in a wooden wine box with a handle. That's crazy.
Yeah,
you know that. I don't know where that is. It's out in storage somewhere. But
Well,
yeah,
you
there's
need
a
to go
bunch
and
of stacks of stuff I wrote that I just never did anything with.
you need to go and look at that, and you need to go and figure, and it's not everything in there, it's just something. And so you're going to have to rifle through that. And remember,
What am I supposed to what's in there that I need? I mean, those
well,
writings like 20 years ago that I did as a teen or a young adult.
and maybe it's relevant now and you didn't even know it. And maybe that's a
Mm.
psychic thing that you did when you were younger and didn't even know it, and you've put it away and you don't know what it is. So,
Wow, that's
and
pretty cool.
as I say, it's something that there's not everything in the box is for you, so you're going to have to rifle through it. But it's the ping moments. Pay attention to the ones that stand out, that kind of jump out at you in energy, and you'll be able to decipher which one it is.
And what's it supposed to do when I find this thing?
I think you're supposed to finish it.
Finish a book. Okay.
I think you're supposed to finish it.
All right. See me roll my eyes. I'm like, you know how much work a book is?
Yep.
All right, we'll have to,
I do.
remember that, because it's been a long time
Yeah.
since I wrote something. I'll have to noodle that idea around.
Oh, well, brush off your writing pen.
Gosh, it's been so long since I wrote by hand too. That's crazy. There's no pressure, Doc.
You
Everybody's
know what?
laughing.
You know what I've been hearing lately from Spirit? I've been hearing go back to basics. I keep hearing that. Go back to basics. So I'm sitting here trying to, figure out the next step for myself, and I keep hearing Spirit saying go back to basics, go back to basics. And I thought, okay, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go back to basics. So I turn on the YouTube videos, and I was watching something, and there was Sylvester Stallone, and I clicked on it, and I must have clicked right at the moment where he said, go back to basics. I was like, okay, there we go. I have the validation now. So pay attention to things like that. That's what stands out. It's all what's in your consciousness at the time. And then what shows up in the intern is the pieces of the puzzle. So handwriting and going back to basics might inspire something in you that you don't realize right now.
Fair enough. Maybe it'll give me a good idea to rattle. That's I'm just really shocked that I barely remembered that box, but it's got all my written stuff in it. And
Well,
yeah,
I've been in your barn then.
there you go.
Wherever it was. So
That's where it's
I went there
in the
in spirit.
barn.
Good. Go look at it then.
Any other things I need to know? This isn't supposed to be about getting reads, but go ahead.
You know what? When it comes, you got to say what it is, or you're going to lose it, or it's going to come back. I know I mentioned this to you in a note, but I thought, it's important for you to hear that again. And I truly don't think going back into practice is where you're supposed to be. I think you're supposed to be doing these videos for sure.
Yeah, I don't feel that's my calling anymore. It feels like a past life to me. Like to go back into practice, it would be something I did just to pay the bills, and the first day I would be trying to figure out how to get back out of practice. Like I wouldn't want to really do it that much. The weird thing, Dana, is I've got like an insane amount of knowledge about stuff, and as far as the classes I've taken, I've spent years learning some higher level stuff, and I just don't use it at all. I don't know. And people always say, how could you go to all the school and not use it for anything? And I tell them, how how many people go work at a job for 10 years and then quit and go to another job and they don't use that knowledge, or it happens to all of us.
For sure. I have no plans. I have no plans on ever looking at a mutual fund as long as I live.
There you go.
Yuck.
Let's talk about that. How do you transition into, say, somebody really wants to start doing readings for their friends, or that they're just starting out, they think they're kind of psychic, or I mean, there was a time in your life where you went from just kind of guessing to what you're doing to perfecting your craft over the years, where you gotten better and better. So where do they start? What kind of advice could you give them to help them get through that learning curve?
Yeah, absolutely. So getting into it, as I say, I always knew that there was a gift that was in me, but getting into actually sitting down and doing readings for strangers as opposed to your family or your friends, you know what? I did a lot of free golf tournaments. I did a lot of charity events. I would give it away for free, because then I didn't feel like I was you know, ripping anybody off because I was new in the biz. So I didn't want to, there was an ethic that came with it as well. So you wanted to make sure that you were of value. So I would do a lot of free golf tournaments or charity events, or anybody who wanted a free reading, I would kind of put my dues in. So everybody should, you know, until you're learning the craft and feeling comfortable about taking money, because the problem is once you put that you know, money connotation on it, it becomes a different entity, it becomes a different game, and then, you know, you have to, and psychics are not cheap, right? So I have to be respectful of the fact that, you know, if somebody comes for a reading with me, it's a day's pay for some people. So I have to be very, very mindful of that. So when you're charging for readings, you want to understand your own value, your own worth, and you want to be able to exchange that. But I suggest doing, you know, quite a few hours and quite a few readings for free for a while until you feel comfortable on how to serve your clients and how to serve your community. And then it kind of takes the pressure off you a little bit too when you decide that you want to put a price on it. As I say, I drove school bus for a long time because I still needed to pay my rent and I still needed to do all that. And I probably wasn't making the money that I should have been until I was. And then I didn't need to drive school bus anymore. So there's always little things that you can do to help supplement. And it just grows over time. I think that's really what it's about, and it takes a while, and you're certainly not going to get rich being a reader. I'm going to tell you that straight. Even though they pay a lot, you're not going to get rich.
It's not Dionne Warwick's not loaded with money with her and her Psychic Friends network?
Oh, well, maybe some are. Well, I would say that the networks themselves, the people who own the
Own it.
networks are making millions. The psychic
Right.
readers,
Not
not
the four
so
psychics.
much.
No.
That's kind of the unfair part.
What do you do as far as when you have a reading and it's not right, or you know, somebody you bomb on a reading or something where someone says, well, you know, that's not me at all, or I'm sure as you're learning over your life that's happened. What kind of advice can you give to new people about that? Do you kind of let people know, hey, I'm new at this and I'm practicing, so it might not be perfect, or like, what do you do?
Okay, so I'm never 100% correct. I will never be 100% correct. So I strive for high 90s. I don't necessarily always get there, but I definitely try to do my best for that. So the things that I get wrong, now what I do for my clients is I always make sure they record the reading. It's very important for them to record the reading, because what happens is I always tell them in about a year, listen to the reading and see what is validated out of that. So they understand that they have the validation, or they understand that where I was a year ago, because a lot of times what I'm saying, the client has no idea because it's future. They have no idea what I'm talking about. They sit there going, oh, I don't know what that is, and that's okay. That's why we record it. So as long as they have the recording to have the proof later, a lot of times, you know, I very rarely hear complaints, and I'm not patting my own back, but I very rarely hear them. I hear lots of good testimonies and lots of good people who tell me lots of really wonderful things, and things that surprise the heck out of them as well. They're amazed by it sometimes, so that's what I can say. And yeah, as far as dealing with the things that I don't get right, you know what? Nobody's perfect, and I really never want to be 100% correct. I really don't want to be that. And I don't know what that's about, but I would rather, you know, stick in the 90s. Maybe it's less pressure for me or something. I don't know.
Well, I'm saying when people start out, you're telling him, how do they figure out which direction to go? Should I use cards? Should I use crystals? Should I just use my head, a crystal ball, like focusing? Like, how do
I
they
have a
figure out their own psychic niche?
Oh, I think that takes a little bit of practice. You know, a lot of people will go out and buy themselves some tarot cards or their crystals, and they like their stones. And, you know, a lot of people just have to try different things, try different exercises, and try and see what works best for you. You'll figure it out soon enough. You'll get the validations that you need soon enough to be able to know what direction you go in. what I know is that when I'm doing readings, and even over the years, I do it one way, and then all of a sudden Spirit throws me a curveball, and I now have to discern it a different way that I'm not used to, and then I get a little confused because I'm being shown something that isn't a reference to me, or something that I haven't seen before. So they do throw me curveballs sometimes, and my abilities change, and how Spirit speaks to me changes sometimes. So I have to adjust as I go as well. So learning. I think your abilities can stay sharpened just by staying in the practice of it. And really, we do need to practice, from looking at auras to, you know, to just doing all of the little tips and tricks to help you, you know, keep your abilities strong and keep going. So yeah, keep going with the practices.
Well, all right, just keep trying different things until you find your vibe, I guess.
Absolutely, that's about all you
It's
can
like
do.
everything else. Yeah. It's
Yep.
like every all of us have had 20 careers. I hear this.
But you'll get the validation as you go. You'll get the validation.
It's
You get the
working.
validations from doing your shows, right? You'll get the
Yeah, I get tons of love from these shows, more than I've ever. You know, I've been on YouTube 7, 8 years, and until I started doing stuff about the Mandela Effect, I rarely had anyone actually like email me or talk to me. And now I get 10 to 20 emails a day about people with personal stories and wanting to ask me questions, and just tons of support. I'm blown away that when this community takes care of me as good as they do. So I
That's
don't, I've
amazing.
never experienced anything like it. And
Well, there's
so I'm
something
thinking,
about the Mandela effect that is just, I don't know if we're ever going to get a complete answer to what it is, but
do you get
yeah,
anything
I know
psychic about it? Because people are asking if you're affected, and if you
I
know,
am affected. I am.
it sounds like you are. So you know what's up with it. But do you have any sort of psychic answers that might help us steer us the right way? Anybody ever
You
asked
know,
you?
to be honest with you, I think it has something to do with more control. I think it has something to do with understanding the psychology of people and humanity. I do believe that this is happening, but I think there's an agenda behind it, and I don't know how far I can get into this, to be honest with you. I'm a little bit nervous about telling you what I think it is, because I've had these experiences. I mean, just, you know, a couple of months ago, I'm driving down the road, and all of a sudden I'm in my car, and I have a little car. I'm driving down the road, and in 1 second, there is a car right beside me pushing me off to the side of the road in my lane, as if we're like very, very close to each other. And I pull over and I stop, and I'm like, where the hell did that car come from? And I roll down the window, and there's a lady on the other side of the road who has stopped probably 13 cars behind her. And she rolls down her window and she says, that car came out of nowhere. And I was like, I know. And then I pull up to the light, and the lady who was sitting there in the car who cut me off, she rolls down her window and she says to me, I'm so sorry, you came out of nowhere. And I'm thinking, no, you came out of nowhere. So, you know, and three of us all had this experience, and I could not figure out where she came from. I had no idea, and she didn't know where she came from, or she didn't know where I came from. And all of a sudden, and I'm all spun out by this, thinking, what the heck happened here? But I'm having lots of experiences like that, but maybe not so dramatic like that, because my car was about to get crunched, but that's the one who kind of stands out the most. So I think when it comes to what it is, I do believe there is shifts in what's happening in the dimensions. I do believe that the dimensions are overlapping each other in some way. That's what I think the shadow people are. Those even you know, the little things that are running under our bed. I feel like this is where the other dimensions are overlapping each other, and we're sort of seeping into one another's dimension. So in fact, I think we're just as much haunting them as they're haunting us. And so that's what I think it is. I just think the dimensions are very, very close together and overlapping, and that's why we can kind of see it. There's lots of things that are happening in the atmosphere, like the little flickering lights that are outside of the corner of your eye that you see, or the shadows that you can see that are moving, and it's your peripheral vision that can actually see the energy around you. So that's why you always see it out of the corner of your eye. If you can kind of think of it in that way. And that's really what I think is happening. And that's why when you look full on, you can't see the shadows and you can't see what's happening, but you can see it out of the corner of your eye. Are you having that experience by any chance?
Yeah, I see distortions in space. And Kate and I both see stuff. She's actually seen something in the house. I see more like as if kind of like like if you ever seen the movie Predator, where it walks in front and it's just like a distortion. That's what I see, but they're small. I really think they're like nature spirits or something in this house.
Yes, yeah, they could be, and sometimes I can see them like floating in midair, or they're just floating in the atmosphere. It's almost like you can jump through it, like it's some sort of porthole or something. You know, there's lots of anomalies that are going on. I remember looking up in the corner of my room one night, and there was 3 heads that were sort of glittery gold floating around and merging in between each other. It was a very, very weird scene, but I could see them and they were conscious. And yeah, and then they just kind of, you know, dissipated. And that's what it was. I was like, well, that was interesting.
So I'm getting lots of questions, and I can't ask you them all because I've got a list of them here. So we got to start going through questions from these people on the chat.
Okay.
So I don't know if you're watching the chat, but
I am. I'm watching it now.
They want to know about what 1111 means. We've talked about it a little on the show. Do you have any psychic gist with that?
Well, yeah, I have my own opinion with that. I know you can go around and ask all the angels, and they say it's the angels answering you, and you know it's messages from God or what have you. And my take is that it's something else. And if you actually look at the numbers 1s and 0s, they are binary code. That's really what you're looking at. Now, what I find interesting is for years now, I have been at the oddest times, you know, I have to go down 3 floors to get into my car, and you know, you got to put the bag in the back of the seat, then you got to get situated, get the keys out, and then you turn on the car and it's 11:11. So you have to be down there in that short window in order to do that. And I do that daily. I do that, I don't know how many times. I could do it 5-6 times a day. And I don't like it. I actually don't like seeing 11:11. I actually don't like the binary code, because I think it's some sort of programming. And another interesting thing is, you know, when you slide your phone open and you know, the clock comes up, quite often it is stuck on 11:11 or 10:10 or whatever, and then it goes to the right time. And I'm thinking, why is it sticking only on binary code? And that's what it feels like. It feels like there's some sort of programming crap going on here, and that's really what I get in my psychic impression. So, and as I say, for years I've been experiencing it. You know, I don't really pay a whole lot of attention to the time unless I need to be somewhere, but you'll be darn sure I'm looking at the clock at 10:10 or 11:01 or whatever it is, and it's always different for me, but it's always binary code. So that's what bugs me.
A glitch in the matrix kind of sending you something. So
yeah, absolutely. That's what it feels like to me.
Got it. Let's see, what other questions did I miss, guys? Ask your questions again, because there's a bunch going by, and I appreciate all the donations that are coming in. Thank you, guys. Love you all. Thanks so much, Lucy and Alt. That was really nice of you guys. Let's see, what other questions do we have here? Well,
you should worry about your Wi-Fi. Whoever, it just went by too quick. Our Wi-Fi is affecting us. That ringing in your ears, I think a lot of times is your Wi-Fi frequencies or your microwave frequencies. I just saw that question, sorry.
Yeah, answer anything. They're talking to you, so.
Yeah, it's going really fast. Holy smokes.
Yeah. All right, let's see, as far as with your practice, do you find it too draining to do a lot? Like, do you have a maximum of what you do and then you're done? I know some psychics will only do certain, like they have to charge up kind of to do them. Or are you more of the kind where you just go through your life and you just get messages coming and going?
It's a bit of both, actually. It's a bit of both. So when I'm sitting down tomorrow, I have a full day. I think I have 6 tomorrow, and that's about the capacity that
Gotcha.
that's the you're sitting there for 6 hours and you're tapping into everybody else's world, so it does take energy. But when I'm out and about and I'm just answering questions, you know, a lot of times that can be draining too, because one person will be asking me a question, but they don't realize that, you know, 5, 10 other people have asked me a question that day too.
Gotcha.
So I could be spending hours there just asking one quick question. So it's a little bit hard to kind of make, you know, I try to do my best.
Some people say that, you know, they're scared of psychics, or it's witchcraft, or it's mind control, or you're being faked out. What would you like to say about that? As far as is trying to develop your psychic abilities dangerous? Can you pull in negative demons and forces and stuff like that, or is it safe?
You know,
Give us your take on that.
yes, it is possible. And I wouldn't say that, you know, when you open up your spectrum and you open up your energy to the world around you, absolutely, you could be bringing things in that are not favorable. Your job is to discern whether or not they're there for your highest good. If I am speaking to angels or masters or teachers or spirits from the other side, I kind of test them in a way. And I also pay attention to my cells. I pay attention to my energy, because there's a lot of things that I get that are not good. I don't get a good feeling from them. I feel like things need to move away from me. I also feel like my energy sort of goes deep within me, and I realize that that's not a good thing too. That's sort of my protection mechanism. But when I'm all sparked up and when I'm excited and I'm exhilarated, especially when I'm, you know, speaking to angels and creators, or the creator, I get very, very charged up. I get very electrified, and I know that I'm being downloaded by something that is good and something that is going to help. And so you know the difference by your energetic field, but you absolutely should be protecting yourself. So as long as we are covering ourselves in our white light, as long as we understand that we're calling on only the highest good. I mean, when we're sitting there, you know, we come home from the bar one night and we want to play with the Ouija board, and we're all drunk and stoned and let's raise the bed, you know, like you are going to attract things to you that you're not going to like. And that's something you should be very, very aware of. But you know, the talking boards are good tools as well. I mean, I've used them for years and I've seen some pretty amazing things with talking boards, but I know I'm talking to angels and spirits because that's who I call on, because I don't want anybody else. Nobody else is giving me the right information. So that's what you call upon.
You're telling me that you can tell, like, if you're pulling in an evil force, it just makes you feel sick or bad, or and you got to the point where you don't. I mean, at this point, you're good enough that you don't call those things in.
Oh, you know what? I can be caught on surprise too, right? They can be very deceptive. They can, you know, they can come in looking like they're all great and dandy. I remember having a meditation one time about, I had a healer who was giving me an energy treatment, and then all of a sudden, out of my closed eye, I could see this neon green alien coming into my vision and into my spectrum. And I was like, whoa, I was very surprised by it, actually. And for about 3 weeks, this thing would be showing up wherever I was, and it would like come into my bedroom, and I'd be, you are not good. I don't like you at all. And he's like, oh, call me Bob. And I'm like, what? You know, call you Bob? What are you talking about? Like, I was just so irritated by this thing. And I knew it wasn't good, and I called it out. I was like, you're not good. You're not here of the light, and you're not here for what you're supposed to be here. I want you to leave. And I haven't seen him since, thank God. So yeah, you can bring in things, and even though they look, he or it came off as being friendly and was there for whatever good purposes, but it really wasn't. No, he was trying to deceive me. So call me Bob. Yeah, that's it. That's what he said. Call me Bob.
Well, I keep getting these questions in the chat room, and Kate asked me to ask this. I don't know if you saw last week's show with Vegan. Did you watch that one yet?
I watched
Vegan
part of
Warrior.
it. Yes, yes, I did. I
So
watched
there was
part of it.
like a big freak out moment where I heard Kate throwing up in the bathroom, and I stopped the camera and went out back there to look. And then I get out there and I didn't hear her. Like I felt the floor shake. I felt her walk by. I heard her throwing up. Some people said they heard the noise on the film. And then when you go back, even when you go back to the minute where it's happening, you know how we're doing Hangout right now. For you guys that don't know, Hangout has an automatic feature. Well, while we're doing this interview, whoever's talking, the camera jumps to. So whoever's the loudest. And during the session, the camera jumped to me while Vegan was talking, even though I wasn't saying anything. So it was picking up some sort of loud noise here. And so that was like the big freak out moment. And a lot of people were kind of freaked out that we're watching. Any psychic vibe on that? They want me to ask you.
Well, but she didn't actually go by, did she? She didn't
No,
actually. She wasn't actually.
She was fine. She was just sitting on the couch when I went out.
Again, I think this is something to do with the dimensional shift. So, you know, I can feel, sometimes I can see my son come out of his room, yet he doesn't come out of his room. So yeah. I wonder if we don't leave an imprint. If you kind of think of what energy is, or you think, even, let's break it down a little bit. So if you look at a film in a film camera, you know, in the old days where we all had film, the atmosphere is sort of made up of the same sort of molecules, and it could actually take an imprint in the atmosphere and sort of repeat itself. So I wonder if that's maybe not what it was, and especially if we're going to be sick, our energy is really high, we're putting an extra oomph imprint into the energy. So I think a lot of times it was an energy imprint that's sort of left behind as if it's a video camera. And that's what, you know, ghosts that are not conscious, where you can't talk to them, they have that residual back and forth. They're just, it's just a repeating sort of mechanism in the atmosphere. If I've explained that okay. I know there's a word for it, but I can't seem to think of.
Someone's calling it a time echo.
Yeah, it's that. I've heard of it as a time echo as well, or a residual ghost that just keeps walking in the same. Like I had a residual ghost when I was a kid that would walk through my kitchen window and the kitchen sink and would walk into my aunt's bedroom, and I would yell at him. And he would never turn around, but I'd be like, "You're not allowed in Aggie's room. You're not allowed in Aggie's room." And I would yell at him, and my mom would be like, "Who are you talking to?" And I'm like, "That man, he keeps going in Aggie's room." So, but he never, ever acknowledged me. He never turned around. He never heard me. And he did the exact same thing every time. So now I know that it was a residual, but I remember distinctly seeing him.
Yeah, I think I used to drive through Gettysburg, and I lived in Savannah. Savannah is the most haunted city in the world, and there were people that talked about the residual all the time. You couldn't interact with these ghosts. It was just like watching a movie.
Right.
But they were just imprinted on that area.
And that's what I think that's what happened with Kate. I think
maybe she was imprinted. That's a good call, because it was that, or you know, it was a different time, different reality, like a merge or something. But
I think because she was sick, I think at some point, so you had said something about her actually being sick earlier, right? You had said something about
been sick for like 2 weeks, and then
so that's what I think it was. And really our energy surges when we're not feeling right. We have to run to the bathroom. Our energy surges. So she probably had left her imprint, and that's what you were seeing. And I actually thought that when I was watching the show too. So, but you never want to put that out, right? You know, you're not going to write that in the chat room going, "Oh, it's just a residual energy. Don't worry about it."
Yeah, I was tripped out. Nothing like that's happened to me. And you know, some people were like, you know, I think you're just making this up. And I'm like, if I was going to make up a ghost, I wouldn't make it so lame that it was someone throwing up in a toilet. You know, like it'd be like something spectacular. It wouldn't be some sort of lame thing like that. Like what ghost comes to haunt you and throws up in your bathroom?
Yeah, that's not so good. Yeah, I could think of a better way to go about that.
You guys have other questions before we end this talk? Because we're only going to go a little over an hour tonight. Any other questions last minute? You can find my my guest Dana. She is actually going to come on the Thursday night show, our all ladies panel, and
Yeah,
you
I'm
can check
looking
her.
so forward to it.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it, and hopefully you guys can check her out and come on. So that's about it. I just want to ask you guys what she said. Haunted barfer. People are calling it a haunted barfer.
There's your next book.
All right, there. That's it. That's the title. You can
it.
find her. Kate's posting her website in the chat, and also if you're watching this later, you'll see her name in the description. You can link to her website and check her out if you want a reading. The other thing is, for you guys that don't know, I just put out a story today talking about how to support the show. That I'm trying to use the Amazon affiliate links to make up the difference for the lost money on YouTube. If you guys don't know that, you can go back and watch these stories. But YouTube, a bunch of advertisers split over a big controversy. So us YouTube creators are kind of scrambling, trying to figure out how to stay afloat. I'm doing it by using Amazon affiliates. So if you're watching this, there's links on the bottom. If you're going to go shop at Amazon, just stop by and click this link before you go. And Amazon throws me a little piece. So it costs you nothing and it's free. It's just one little step you got to do is go through my link first. And it really helps out the show. It doesn't cost you anything extra. Nothing will be different. Amazon just basically gives me like a little percentage, like 3 or 4% to refer you over. And just go do your own shopping. And it's private. I have no idea what you're buying, so don't worry about that. That's it. So I am going to try to get better about mentioning that, and the support too. There's a link if you're looking to support the show. I appreciate that. Oh, someone keeps asking about this pink moon, pink moon, pink moon. What is a pink moon? Can you help me? It keeps coming up.
Well. Pink moon.
Oh
boy. To be honest, I think it has something to do with it feels like a bit of a deception to me. I don't know I don't know much about it, but and I don't know the history of it. I don't even know if I've ever heard of a pink moon before, but it almost feels like it's some sort of deception. And that's the distinct feeling I get about it. It's not real, or it's not true, or I really don't know where to go with that. I'll tap into it a little bit more. Maybe we
talk about it Thursday. If you get more. Pat on the back wants to know, will others wake up with the Mandela Effect? Hold on, her question got away here. Do you see it? Will others wake up to ME, and will it get stronger? Is this like, are we at peak ME, or is it going to keep going and getting faster? Are more people going to wake up?
No, I think more people are going to wake up, especially in the States for some reason. I think the States are being targeted in this in some way. I don't know about the rest of the world, but it feels like, especially in the United States, it's going to go like wildfire. We're having experiences here in Canada as well. But I tell you, it's a hard thing to convince. I know at Christmas I was sitting there with my family and I said, how many people remember the JFK assassination? And everybody said, and I asked them how many people were in the car and how many women, and every single person at the table said 4 and 1 woman. And I said, okay, and I pulled out my phone and I brought it up, and there was 6 people in the car and 2 women, and they would not even acknowledge that it was anything but weird. And they didn't even want to talk about it, and they were actually kind of mad at me, so I sort of shut the conversation down at that point.
Yeah, and that's why we have a group, Dana. That's where I come in. Come to our Discord group and hang out with people that don't think you're crazy. Yeah, it's hard to. We've discussed how to handle that, and we're trying to work at it as a group of what do you do about the naysayers and
the naysayers. Well, I'm on the fringe as it is, right?
Yeah, you're already. Your whole lifestyle's fringe, so what's a little step further? Come on.
You know what? It's a big step. It really is a big step. I got to tell you, people are not comfortable with this. Even though they're acknowledging it in their own life, they're not comfortable with it at all. So, but we're going to educate them. That's for sure.
All right. Other people are asking, why us? Why is it just a few of us waking up? You got any sort of read on that?
Oh, I get it's more than a few, believe me. I just few that are actually brave enough to talk about it, but I'm sure there is tons of people out there who are dealing with this silently because of the stigma that comes with it, because, oh, you're just crazy or whatever. So I'm sure they're suffering in silence. And there's just a few people like us in your panel, in your group, that are brave enough to talk about it and curious enough to talk about it. So I think it's definitely going to grow. I definitely think the more people who are getting involved, it's gonna go bigger and it's gonna go better. And I think we're gonna find out. I think we're gonna find out really what it is, because I don't think even though we're noticing all of these little changes and stuff like that, I don't think we know what the final agenda of why it's happening. We're certainly not clear about it, and we're curious, and I think if we keep finding it out or keep talking about it, we're going to figure it out. So I have true faith in this.
You feel like we'll eventually come to some sort of answer?
I think we're going to know what it is, and believe me, I do think it's a distraction in some way as well. And same with flat Earth, and same with all of these things that are going out and on the mainstream and on YouTube. I think it's some sort of distraction to what's happening and what's coming, and I think this is part of it in a lot of ways. I think it's part of a whole umbrella of things that are, and talking about it will, I think, will curve it for sure.
Okay, well, so that's just, I kind of feel that way too. I mean, it's a huge deal, but it is just, I think, a side effect of something bigger going on.
Yeah.
And I go back and forth. There's so many good theories. I like the New Earth theory because it's nice and positive.
Mm-hmm.
Try to gravitate to what feels good and what feels right. I'm not sure. Any ideas on that? Or should we save this for Thursday?
Oh, hey, whatever you want to do. I'm enjoying my conversation with you immensely.
All right, we'll touch on it, and then we'll go deeper in Thursday. Do you have thoughts psychically on a New Earth?
Well, I believe we're transitioning into that for sure, and I know there's something about creating our reality that we need to pay attention to. And it's fine to kind of go into the dark corners of what the Mandela Effect or even what the New Earth is doing, because it tends to do that in some way. But if you can stay very, very focused on what you want to create in your reality and how you want to create it, you will manifest it, and you will be able to do and live a happy life, even in the New Earth. But things are changing, and we need to adapt to it. Very important to live in the moment, for sure.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate everybody coming tonight. This was a unscheduled surprise. Sometimes my Tuesday shows, I just get an itch to do one. It really depends on my schedule, and I'm very grateful that Dana joined us for this. And I would like to have her back. I think she'd be a lot of fun. We're going to talk about maybe coming in and doing a few readings some night. I think it'd be fun. Are you up for that, or is it too crazy for you?
It is a little crazy, but if everybody can be patient. So when I'm giving readings, what happens is there's a bit of silence. So if somebody's going to ask me a question, I kind of have to get into the vision. So there's some quiet time. So if guys,
all right, so it might not be as good as entertaining as I thought it would be.
Well,
there's a lot of dead time.
There is, just because I have to see the vision and I can't be jumping into it too quickly. But if people are patient and they're willing to do it, and you want to do that, I think it's awesome. I would be happy to do it if everybody else is okay.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. One last question. How does she feel about the Emmy community? How's the energy there?
The energy is fantastic, and I love the spiritual sense of the conversations. I really love watching your show, Dr. Tarrin. I enjoy it. I enjoy what everybody says, and everybody has something to contribute. I think the energy is fantastic, and I see it going for a very, very long time.
I feel like that we're just getting to the precipice of a lot of healers, psychics, those kind of people. I hate to use the word new age, but that sort of brand of person is going to start finding this show. I just got that feeling that that's coming. I don't know.
It makes sense.
It feels like they're attracted to this message. So
Absolutely, it makes sense, and there's some
we'll probably
truth
do
in
some more
this.
about that.
Yeah, great.
Yep. All right. I want to also invite people to go over to the Discord. This conversation is not going to end. It's just going to end here. So if you do not know about the Discord chat, hopefully, Marlena, if you're listening, can you just drop a link, or Susanna?
Oh, there you
Either
go.
you guys drop some links to the Discord. That link only stays active for a few minutes before it self-destructs. So go ahead and click it now if you want to join. And you come over and talk with us. It's a lot of fun. And you get to meet lots of cool ME folks. So thank you so much. We're Dana, any last words before I close the shop up? Any last advice?
You know what? Thank you so much for having me. This was a blast. I cannot wait for Thursday night, and we'll see everybody soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Stay positive. Be nice to each other. Support each other. Be nice to your cat. Don't let him out in the rain like my cat's. He won't come in. Does your cat go out in the rain?
No, she doesn't. She'll stand 10 feet away from the door.
Yeah, I can't get an indoor cat. Like, my cat's crazy. Just goes out in the middle of this stuff. It's
How
crazy.
did you even know I had a cat?
Just know. You can tell cat people. We sense each other.
We do.
Cat people are easy to pick out. Easy.
Absolutely are.
All right. Love you guys. Thanks for all the support. Also, remember, I'm going to keep saying this until, if you plan on shopping on Amazon this week, please go through my link. I'd appreciate it. Thanks, guys. See ya.
Bye.
Bye-bye.